Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. This is the weekly chart of silver in the Japanese yen provided by netdania.com. You can click on the link below. Now, as you can see here, this is starting to shape up to be the resumption of a bull market. It does not at all look like a parabolic crash that a lot of people said it was. It certainly looked that way when we were at that 48 price in dollars, and you can see in yen it also took a tremendous collapse. But now you can see we've broken out to new highs that go all the way back to the beginning of last year and even the end of 2011. So quite a move in silver in the Japanese yen. Now the monthly chart is even more important because, as you can see here, we're about to get a cross of the MACD on the monthly. Now, monthly crosses of the MACD do not occur very often. You can see one is projected to be here. There was one here, and there was some noise here. I'll ignore that. And then the other main one was here, and you saw a little one here. So really, in this bull market for silver and Japanese yen, you pretty much only had three major crosses upwards of the MACD on the monthly, and that was at the beginning of the bull market, the resumption in 2005, and then the resumption in 2009 and 10. And now it appears that we're getting another one. Where will this one take us? No one really knows. So that's very bullish for silver. Of course, the silver chart in dollars is not quite as bullish as far as that formation, and you can see that the monthly is not close to crossing for the silver priced in dollars. So 31.85, a lot of people consider that to be dirt cheap, but be that as it may, there may not be any available to buy at that price because we have the news hitting today. I'll take you over to Silver Doctors. January U.S. Mint Silver Eagle sales passed 6 million. Mint suspends sales, states Eagles are sold out. So the Mint has already shut down. Now, if you remember, at the end of last year, they shut down for 3 weeks, and I don't remember if the excuse was retooling for the 2013s or whatever it was, but now people are starting to wonder if there's some kind of shortage going on with the blanks. I don't think that this has anything to do with their ability to mint that many, that they're backed up. I guess that's possible, but I don't know why they would not take note and start ramping up. They've seen the rise in the sales of Silver Eagle. So something is afoot, and they're sold out until the 28th of January. The rumor is that a lot of the premiums have been rising. Some are saying they're $4 and $5. I think APMEX says they're shipping on January 31st. Gainesville, I heard they were out, and others. So very, very interesting things going on. Now, I wanted to keep this in perspective. I've read this a number of times, but it's very important for you to understand this simple economic principle of the definition of an economic shortage. An economic shortage is a term describing a disparity between the amount demanded for a product or service and the amount supplied in a market. Specifically, a shortage occurs when there is excess demand. Therefore, it is the opposite of a surplus. Economic shortages are related to price. When the price of an item is set below the going rate determined by supply and demand, there will be a shortage. In most cases, a shortage will compel firms to increase the price of a product until it reaches market equilibrium. Sometimes, however, external forces cause more permanent shortages. In other words, there is something preventing prices from rising or otherwise keeping supply and demand, that says unbalanced, it should say balanced. So that's what's going on. There is a shortage now. A lot of people say, well, there's other silver you can get. Yes, but there's a shortage of silver eagles, and there shouldn't be. There should never be shortages. If we have free markets and free prices, there's very, very rare instances where shortages should occur, and they should occur very briefly. So something is definitely afoot. Now, I wanted to show you uh, these coins being delivered. This is actually Tulving has a the Tulving website for buying gold and silver, but also has a YouTube channel. I wanted to show you this video briefly of them taking delivery of a pallet of silver eagles. So you can see there, this pallet here, this is a monster boxes of silver eagles. You have roughly 100 boxes there. It's about, looks like it's 6 deep, 4 wide, looks like 24 per layer, and it looks like there's 4 layers. So we're talking about, we'll just say 100 boxes. Now 100 boxes, and that's 500 coins per box. So that's going to be roughly 50,000 ounces, and we know that it's roughly 32 in the ton, so we're talking almost 2 tons here. And some would ask, why do they only have one pallet in that truck? Well, if you watch the truck, when they lifted the pallet off, you saw how much the truck came up. They probably can't carry more than that. So that's what I've heard. A truck can carry about 2 tons. So that brings us over to the other very interesting story of the day, and that is that even though the mint is having problems getting delivery of the silver blanks to make the silver eagles, I'm assuming, apparently the silver ETF, the SLV, is not having any problems at all, because we can see here this chart from Zero Hedge that they just increased their silver by 562 tons. You can see that on the article here. 572 tons of a record silver added in one day to the SLV ETF. So now let's think about that for a little bit here. I said it was about 2 tons, and you can do the math, but it was less than 2 tons on that pallet. But if we're talking about 2 tons per truck, we're going to be talking about 300 trucks. Now, here's a picture of roughly 300 trucks. So this is what delivered in one day the silver to the silver ETF custodian, I presume. And they had to be unloaded, then they had to be counted, then they had to be sorted, then they had to be stacked, then they had to be warehoused, etc. So you tell me. There's a lot of others who are more knowledgeable about logistics than I am. You tell me how in one day you are going to take delivery of that much silver, and I would really like to know. So that is a very suspicious story, and I don't think a lot of people are buying it. It comes to roughly, well, we'll go ahead and read this. Technically, the addition of 572 tons or a massive 18 million ounces of physical silver to this SLV ETF in one day is not a record, as it excludes one amount, which, however, was a year-end rebalance at the end of 2007, offset promptly in the next day. But it certainly is the biggest one-day addition of physical silver to the SLV in ordinary course of operations. It is also more silver added to the ETF than in all of 2012, when just 544 tons were added in the entire year. This was driven by the creation of some 19 million shares of SLV overnight, which brought the total to 356 million shares. And since then, since there has been no move in the price of silver, which certainly would have soared had this amount been purchased in the open market, we can only assume this has to do with in-kind basket creation taking place. Whether this was due to arbitrage or simply the need to create inventory, we don't know. We are confident, however, that SLV custodian, money laundering expert extraordinaire HSBC will have no comment. Just as there is no comment why in the days following the epic May 1st, 2011 takedown of silver, a nearly just as large 522 tons of silver poured out of the ETF on May 4th, 2011. What is certain is that a move of this size is certainly notable. So, if you think about that, it seems very strange. Now, if you remember Eric Sprott talking about the long lag times for him to get the metal into his physical silver ETF, the PSLV, and yet it seems that HSBC was able to take delivery of 18 million ounces in a day. So that is hard to believe, to say the least, and we'll be watching that very closely to see what the SLV does with that. So with the Silver Eagle shortage going on, I wanted to take you over to APMEX and cover. Now, I'm not in the stacking mode right now, but I did want to cover a coin that I think is potentially, maybe for those of you who like to play the numismatic game, might be something worth picking up. Now, this is the 2012 5-ounce America the Beautiful Hawaiian Volcano coin. Now, this coin is one that the mint has stopped producing, and I'm not sure why that is. You can see if we go back here, APMEX says as low as $4.79 per ounce over spot, sold out at the mint. So for some reason they're not making this coin anymore, and APMEX just happens to have some in. If you do the math, it comes to about $36 a coin. So that's a little steep for those who don't like to pay more than the $3, $2 or $3 premium. But then again, I've heard now that Eagles are going for a much higher premium. So let's go over and take a look at the Silver Eagles on APMEX. So they're charging $4 above spot. So now when you think about that, America the Beautiful coin does not seem that bad of a deal if this is what's going to happen with premiums going forward in the future. Now, I find it a little bit interesting that APMEX is promising a January 31st date, so they're selling these. There's no number that they have there, so I guess their expectation is that they will be able to get from the mint as many as people order, but what happens if they don't? Another thing that's very interesting here of note is the APMEX buy price. You can see that the APMEX buy price for the Silver Eagle is $34.60. So now they're buying at $2 to $3 over spot rather than selling. So of course they're out of the, you can see every date here is January 31st. There is the 2012 they still have, and they have 45 of those left, and they're $5.49 over spot. The 2011, same thing. Have 870 of those. 2010s. So we'll keep a close eye on these. They seem to be selling all of the prior years for that 549. Here's 569 over spot as we get to the older ones. So it appears that the premiums are expanding, and there seems to be a shortage of blanks or something going on. But of course, there's a glut of silver over at the SLV. They've managed to grab 572 tons of silver. So very strange things happening in the silver market. It looks like in the dollar we have done the snapback rally in silver that I was predicting. I was predicting a snapback rally in the second part of January after the December smackdown. You can see that the rally started, and then we had this Bernanke smackdown, and then it came back. We've just tested the lower part of this. What was support has now become resistance. So the next target to get through in the dollar price of silver is going to be that 32.50 area, and then onwards to 33. As we go out, a lot of the key resistance points are going to be 34 and 35, 37.50, and then of course we're going to have that 42.50 price that we need to get back to before we challenge that $48 price before we head to triple digits. And we'll talk to you next time.